Okay, Mustang Resto fans, back working on the Mustang today. We've actually been working on the car for a while. I just haven't had time to put some videos up. But we're welding on all this sheet metal in the back, so I'll take the camera around and show you what we've been doing. Still got a little bit more welding to do, and it's just a long, tedious process. You put the quarter panels on, the taillight panel, put everything on, adjust it, take it off, make some tweaks here and there, put it back on. Yeah, I've had these things off and on now for, I don't know, 24 times at least, it feels like. So now the quarters are welded at the door jambs and along the top of the rocker panel, so they're not coming off, and at the sail panel. They're on. I can still lift them up a little bit in the back, tweak them up and down just a little bit, so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just getting ready to weld them to the taillight panel. So let me show you what we've been done and just talk a little bit about some of the things that we noticed when we were doing it. Alright, so here's the what's this, passenger side, and like I said, we have it welded along the door strike, the door jamb, whatever that is, and then down here across the bottom at the rocker panel. That actually gets welded from inside the car. You go inside and weld through some holes in the car, and then of course the door jamb piece, you weld that from just from this side. So we got to grind all these welds down and everything, kind of make them disappear. But just to show you what's going on, we got all these welds done, and then you can't really see. If I come inside the car, this big hole down here. Let me get a light. Hang on one second. Okay, so that's a little better. Here we are back in the car. You can see there's a big access hole down here. You actually use this to attach the rear window regulator, but you also go inside this hole and you can weld the quarter panel along this edge to the top of the rocker. So we got in there and did that, and then we came back outside and we welded the sail panel. Welded the sail panel edge of the quarter panel to the sail panel. Now we did that on both sides of the car so far. And just one piece of information about this sail panel. You saw me in an earlier video use a torch and a wire brush to take all the lead that was in that joint off. And then we took a wire brush or a wire wheel on the grinder and ground on it. But that didn't get all the lead off. When we would start to make these welds, I would push the quarter panel in, with a pry bar, just something to push on, and Colin would weld it. And then we would move down and get to the next weld spot and weld that one. As soon as the weld cooled off, one of the welds would pop and break. So we figured out that the lead on the thing must have been still there, still interfering with the weld. So I got out my spot weld drill bit and just drilled a little bit on each of the holes where we're going to weld to the sail panel. You don't drill a hole in the sail panel, but we just kind of cleaned up that surface of the metal. And then turn up the heat on the welder just a little bit. You can't turn it up too much. And then all the welds stuck. So now the next task is to weld. I'm going to weld back here on the taillight panel next. My thought is to weld it from the stiffest part on the car out towards towards the ends, because that way you can kind of push all the wrinkles out to the free end. So right now you can see I've got this back end clamped up. Got clamps everywhere holding things in place. Got a clamp down there. I got my my little fixture here jacking up that side of the quarter. I kind of rigged up another one out of these two sawhorses, and I used that over here on this side, on the passenger side. But I did a little test this morning. I took it off and I found out that to put these couple of clamps on, there's a clamp here too. And then there's actually Just a handheld clamp there, and then another one there, another C-clamp. You know, with these clamps on there, that pretty much holds everything where I want it. Now you can see I got the trunk lid just bungee corded down right now. But you know, you want to have everything on, and you want to test fit it all, because once it's welded, it isn't coming off. So, you know, I like this gap here. It's pretty good, I think. It's as good as I can get it, let's put it that way. Same thing on this side. This one's got a little more junk in the way. But over here on this side, this seam between the trunk lid and the quarter panel looks pretty good. And then coming around to the back, the trunk lid joint to the car, pretty good. I mean, you know, it might be a little fatter over here on the passenger side than the driver's side. I can always tweak that. But I'm just trying to, I got it on here so I can get the up and down on the quarter panel right. So I'm pretty happy with how everything fits. I got one of these little level things. It's got a magnet on it. You know, you can just pop it on things and measure the levelness. I mean, this isn't really a good measurement because this is not the top surface of it. But if I open up this trunk lid and get this thing set up on here, I can see that the taillight panel is flat level. Let me just do that for a second. Alright, so I got the level set up on top of the quarter panel. I don't think this will focus that close, but it's pretty much, it's right on 0 degrees, which means I pull back that the taillight panel is level from side to side. So I'm ready to weld. I've been punching holes in all of the surfaces that I can to do spot welds. You know, we're going to fill these little plugs with weld. So you got to grind off the E-coat. So you know, I had to go in and then grind off the paint on things that were painted. So I went in and had to like fit everything together, mark all my places where I'm going to weld. That's why I kind of get like this stripe on the taillight panel here of E-coat that's been removed, because when I weld on that trunk or whatever you call it, there's a piece that goes in here that rounds out this corner. This is where I'm going to weld it. So I got all the E-coat ground off. I found that the E-coat burns when you weld it, so it's probably not good to mix, try and weld through it. Catches on fire and burns. So, plan now is to weld the taillight panels to the quarter panels. And then I'm going to weld, once that's all done, then I'll weld the taillight panel at the bottom to this cross member that goes across the back of the car. And that'll pretty much be it. Then, obviously I'll have to come down underneath and weld the bottom of the quarter panel to the bottom of the car, but that's not going to change the attitude of anything at that point. Everything will be locked in, and that'll just be a closure weld. So I'm not going to show you all the welding. That's kind of boring, but that's what we've been up to. I don't really want to show you the welding, but I'll just show you something that I am doing while I'm welding. I got this C-clamp here, and every spot that I weld, I put the clamp on and clamp the two pieces together as tight as they can go. And once I have the clamp on, if they still aren't 100% flat on each other, then I'll use a hammer and dolly and hammer them flat. And on these, the way everything fits, if I put the dolly in the back here, and you can't get in there, you can't make the hammer work. So what I'll do is I'll put the dolly on the outside, and then I'll hit it in the back. And that works just as well. Then that works just as well. If it puts the force in the back of the piece, and then the resistance from the dolly is pushing in on the first side, the front side, and it actually closes up those gaps. So just a couple of tips: clamp all your your surfaces together before you weld them. Make sure you have them in close, touching each other as tight as they can be. You don't want to try and, like this one down here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of there's a gap in there, maybe like, I don't know, maybe a couple 1/16 of an inch, a little bit more than that. Not quite an eighth, maybe a 1/10 of an inch. You can't just fill that up with weld. You could, but you don't want to do that. So, when I finish welding this one, I'll let the weld cool for a second, then I'll release the clamp, I'll move it down, and I'll clamp this next one and hammer and dolly. Just keep doing that all the way around, so you get nice tight joints and nice tight solid welds.